Welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming either in person or online to Chio Yoga. Well, I guess live or recorded rather than in person or online. I'm Mel Béchard. We haven't practiced together before. I work in the emergency department and also am a registered yoga teacher. So today's class is going to be about core stability, kind of our whole trunk and how it stabilizes us. A lot of the time with stability, people think we're just going to be holding poses for a long amount of time, but you find that if you're moving around a lot, that can really challenge our stability and strength a little bit more. So we've got some strength, we've got some movement, should be a good time. Don't think we'll need anything too special for today's class. A mat is always helpful. Having water nearby is great too. And if you're able to orient yourself such that the long edge of your mat is towards the screen, and you turn to face the short edge so that your right side is towards the screen, that's great. It'll make seeing me throughout the class a little easier, but it is not at all mandatory. So don't worry if it doesn't work in your space. So with all that said, let's get started. Find yourself in a seated position. Legs can be crossed, one in front of the other. However, you find yourself feeling supported and stable. If this is a lot in the hips, especially just to start, feel free to roll the mat to prop up your hips a little bit more, or you can use a blanket or towel or block if you have it handy. Make sure you've got a good amount of real estate behind you, so you're closer towards the end of the mat in front of you. And let's allow ourselves to close our eyes and start to just check in with our bodies. Turn the attention to the breath and notice the strength it takes to recognize the breath without trying to actively change it. This can be a great metaphor for life too. Strategically deciding where to expend our energies rather than being guided by our external surroundings. Imagine any tension melting off of you. For those in Ottawa right now, you might hear the rain on the roof. You can imagine the rain washing away the stress and tension, leaving you with just yourself. Very, very slowly and subtly, start to shift your weight on the pelvis. Shifting the weight slightly to the right side of your pelvis, to the back, the left, into the front. You'll notice your spine might make tiny, tiny circles. So if you were a unicorn with a marker on your head, you draw the tiniest little circle in the ceiling. We're just waking up our interoception, getting a little bit of mobility in the pelvis. Continue your circles, being hyper conscious of where the pelvis meets the mat and connect with your breath throughout. Let's change the direction if you haven't already. Make the circles a little bigger. Maybe mirroring the circles by moving your head and neck a little bit. Pause in the middle for stillness, feeling that spot where you're entirely neutral, where all the four corners of your pelvis feel very balanced on the mat. From here, let's inhale as we shine our heart forward. So making sure not to curl the spine, really just gently pulling the heart forward, noticing how the back of the pelvis starts to leave the mat. And once you reach your appropriate edge, round the spine and allow it to spill over the legs with an exhale. On your next inhale, root the pelvis back down to the mat and stack the spine vertebrae by vertebrae. Turn towards your right leg, send the heart forward, and pour over the spine, making sure to stay rooted in that opposite left hip. Connect the actions with your breath, and it's okay if you're out of sync with me, you can move at your own pace. Shine the heart to the left this time, and repeat this action. Once you've gone in the middle and are more or less even on both sides, we have an option here. One option is to place our palms or fingertips beside our bum and lean back to raise off our legs. Another option, if you're already looking for some core balance, is to simply keep your arms elevated and lean back, pausing in a bit of a Navasana or boat pose. Your feet can hover near the mat, and you're simply going to cross the opposite leg in front. Tilt forward, round the spine, and we'll repeat those exact same actions. Allow yourself to feel the articulation of each vertebrae and appreciate the sensation of fluidity that we're cultivating in the spine. Once you've done the middle and both sides, pause in neutral, and we'll repeat that same action. Rocking the hips back, changing the position of the legs, and doing this maneuver once again. Now, it can be tempting in yoga when things are repeated to get a little bored and to rush and say, oh, I've already done this. But if we're really tuning into our bodies, we can challenge ourselves to notice new sensations. How does it feel in the opposite arm as I reach over towards the left? Is there any sort of opening or lengthening happening in the shoulder? By paying attention to new areas of the body as we repeat these simple movements, we can make any movement, even when we've done 1,000 times, a little bit more interesting. Once you've evened out the sides, last time we'll rotate back, switch the legs, and repeat. There's no need to go too far forward. Maybe you're noticing that now you're craving to go a little bit deeper than you did at the start. That's perfectly natural. Maybe we're not there yet, and that's also totally fine. Take exactly what you need from these movements with no expectations for anyone else. Once you've evened out the sides with absolutely no rush, we'll pause in neutral, just noticing how we feel. You can imagine running up the length of your spine from the very top of your head all the way down to your sacrum that's planted on the mat. Maybe shift your weight, give it a little bit of a wiggle. Notice if we've shaken off any cobwebs that have developed. Okay. From here, let's lean back, putting the weight to the back of the pelvis. Option to keep the fingertips on the mat or arms forward, coming into a Navasana or boat pose. Do your best to shine the heart forward, bring the knees in towards the chest. There's an option too to take your palms and place them behind your thighs for a bit of extra stability. You can keep your shins parallel to the mat, or if you're feeling like this is not waking up anything in you, you can try extending through the legs. They don't need to be perfectly straight at all. Wherever you're at, let's cross the legs and repeat this movement, crossing one foot in front of the other. Feeling the inner thighs activating, feeling the core stabilizing us during this maneuver. We won't be here for too long. Try to reconnect with the breath for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause in your Navasana. Make sure you've got some space behind you and round the spine as we come into a knees to chest position. Rock and roll the spine side to side. And now you're probably feeling a little crunched up in these hips. So let's send the feet to the mat, knees bent, hands beside the hips. Bounce the toes a couple times to find a good position where your legs feel light and springy. And then press into the feet to flatten the low back in the mat and send the pelvis up into a Setu Bandha Sarvangasana or bridge pose. Feel the opening happening throughout the pelvis, savor this maneuver. And then let's lower the spine vertebrae by vertebrae. As we do so, allow the arms to float up overhead. Let's repeat this maneuver. Pressing through the feet, raising the pelvis as we bring our arms towards the mat. And then lowering the pelvis as we send the arms up overhead. You can feel the core starting to activate and support you in this maneuver. You can feel the hamstrings working as well. And appreciate any sort of fluidity that's cultivating in the shoulders. I'm hearing some shoulder clicks, which is pretty satisfying. Now let's add on a little bit. So the next time your hips are raised, we'll pause there. Let's lower the hips together, arms going up overhead. And once your hips land, bring one foot off the mat, the next foot off the mat, with the knees hovering over the hips. Let's circle the arms out towards the sides and then reach past the legs and thighs as we do a little mini crunch without putting our chin all the way on our chest. Still looking up at the ceilings, pausing here. And now allow the feet to come down, palms to come down beside the hips, and press on up into your bridge. Let's repeat that. It's a bit complex, but don't overthink it. Allow the hips to float down, arms float up, send them out to the sides as we raise one foot, raise the other, crunch on up to feel the back of the body getting longer and more spacious. Plant the feet, plant the palms, and press on up. Totally okay if you're out of sync with me. Move with your own breath and your own pace. The next time your feet and palms are on the mat, pause here. Let's windshield wipers legs side to side by just tick-tocking them very gently, not going all the way down to the mat. And from here, let's reach behind our thighs. Everyone will give it a little grab. See if we can use our core to roll us forward and then rock back and forth and our little rock and roll back up to a seated position. No worries if it takes you a few rocks to get there. In fact, even if you make it in one rock, continue to rock and roll a little bit, just like I am, so that we can cultivate a little bit more warmth. Perfect. Let's pause for a minute with our feet on the floor, knees bent. We're going to do that transition that we did last week to end up in tabletop facing the other way. So let's take our right leg, cross it over our left, send our left palm behind us, fingertips pointing away, and reach up and over with the right arm coming to tabletop. No worries if you make your own way there. We're all going to meet in tabletop together. From here, let's tilt the pelvis, drop the belly, shine the heart through the arms as we come into cow pose. And then exhale as we tilt the pelvis, round the spine, and press away from the mat into cat. Repeat these actions following your own time with your own breath. From here, I invite you to freestyle a little bit. So it's totally okay to close your eyes, but I invite you to do anything other than your traditional cat-cow. So maybe we're gonna bump our hips side to side. Maybe we'll come off the wrists and give them a little bit of a roll. Maybe we'll pause in stillness for child's pose. No matter what, take your time and use the next 10 to 20 seconds or so to just freestyle. Making sure that we're moving slowly, consciously, and with the breath at all times. Let's take a minute to pause in our neutral tabletop, and we're going to get ready to walk our palms a little bit in front, tuck the toes under, and you know where we're going. Let's push through the palms to send those hips up and back into our first downward facing dog. Pedal out the feet, straightening one leg and then the other to shine some light on the hamstrings. Really stabilize and press through the palms so that our spine is shooting out in one long line of energy. Allow the knees to bend, heels to drop towards the mat. It does not matter at all if they touch. Who cares? Reconnect with your breath in the downward dog. Take a minute to notice how your shoulders might feel if you walk your palms out a little further, maybe a little closer in. Find a spot where you have maximum stability. Let's now begin to walk our dog by stepping one foot and then the other, ever so slightly and closer towards our palms. Finding ourselves in an Uttanasana forward fold at the top of the mat. Bend the knees generously, allow the body to drape over the legs, maybe do a little sway side to side as we feel the back of our body all the way from our heels to our head, opening up, getting some fresh air. From here, let's slide the palms up to the shins or thighs, looking down, nice long back in front of us. And then exhale back into our Uttanasana forward fold. Ever so slowly, let's send our weight back into our heels. As we tuck under our pelvis, feel the hamstrings activate to gently pull our upper body up into a Tadasana mountain pose. Take your time. We won't do everyone this slow, but it is really nice to do a few luxurious slow ones, especially to start. Rise into your Tadasana. Enjoy a refreshing breath at the top. And allow a full exhale. From here, let's reach up with the arms, maybe engaging in a bit of a back bend as we do so. Bring the palms together and very slowly, just like we're pulling something towards us. Let's allow those palms to meet in front of the chest. Great. From here, let's turn our attention to our feet. You can allow our hands to rest at the side and simply walk the feet up and down a little bit. Maybe rock the ankles side to side. I'll turn so you can see what I'm doing. And find that spot where your legs feel very balanced. So there's equal weight and equal tension on both the inner aspects of the feet and outer aspects of the feet. Once you find that spot, let's shift our weight to our right leg and bring our left knee in front of us. We're going to line up our knees so that our left leg is pointing behind us and take our left palm and grab towards a foot or ankle. Classic gym class quad stretch. We want to make sure we're not curving our spine. We're really sending our heart and belly button forward so that you can feel that lovely opening on the left side of the hip. And from here, you can either keep your arm on your hips or send the right arm up. Without moving the legs, try to shine your heart up and back a little bit to enjoy a back bend, being very conscious of what's happening in the low back. If you feel the slightest little pinch, come on out of the stretch a little bit. We want it to be helpful and not harmful, simply.
Take a few breaths here. And when you're ready, without slingshotting the foot, trying to leave the foot in the exact same spot, release your left foot and step back into a high Anjaneyasana or crescent lunge. Take a minute to bend through your knees, get a little bouncy. Notice if you have any extra mobility at the front of that left hip. And now we're going to windmill our left arm up and over, planting the back foot, coming into a Virabhadrasana 2 or Warrior 2 position. Feel free to shift the weight a little bit, maybe walk out your stance a little longer. We should have our front right toes pointing towards the short edge of the mat, our back left toes going towards the long edge of the mat, shoulders above hips, arms out to the side, looking past those right fingertips. We'll pause here, returning to the breath. You can imagine pulling your feet apart slightly, almost like you're trying to smooth out any wrinkles in your mat. Once you feel pretty comfortable with that and draw some stability, imagine bringing your legs a little bit closer, just isometrically contracting, and notice how that activates the inner thighs and pelvic floor. Play between those two, pressing the feet apart, pulling them together, noticing how that activates different muscles around the hips and core. It looks like I'm literally doing nothing, but it's actually a decent amount of hard work for the deep core muscles. All right, from here, we're going to windmill up and over with that left arm again. Use the palms or fingertips to frame the front foot. Release the back foot so we're on the toes, and then send the right arm up into the air as we enjoy a twist. Feel free to walk out that right foot a little bit so that you've got more room to breathe. Some people might like a block or book or something to bring the mat a little closer. That's totally okay. And it's also very okay to come to your knees at any point in time. From here, let's windmill that top arm down to frame the front foot. Maybe draw your stance in a little closer as you place down the back heel and straighten through that front leg without locking the joint all the way. It's recommended to have a tiny micro bend or a big bend through that front leg. Shine the heart forward, and just like we did before, pour the spine over the leg, making sure we're moving gently, making sure we can readjust our stance if needed, if it's a little too intense, getting a lovely sensation of lengthening in that back right hamstring as we come into pyramid pose or Parshvottanasana. Let's now start to bend through that front right leg and walk our palms or fingertips towards the middle of the mat, pausing in a brief wide-legged forward fold, and then continuing the journey, allowing our feet to turn to face the short edge of the mat, palms or fingertips framing that front left foot, and then stepping back into a plank pose. We'll pause here, gathering that core stability for 3, 2, 1, and now bend through the elbows to slowly lower towards the mat with control, or at least as much control as you can. Untuck those back toes, press the feet into the mat, bring the elbows into the midline, and on your next inhale, rise up into Cobra. It can be a gentle Cobra using the strength of your back and core, or if you want a little bit of opening in the front of the body, press through the palms a little bit, making sure not to crunch in that low back, to really feel the lengthening of the front of the body. On your next exhale, let's lower the upper body towards the mat, tuck underneath the back toes, and either coming through knees or straight to plank, pushing on back to downward facing dog. We got to do that same sequence next side, and then we'll add on and get funky. So let's pedal at the feet just like we did before, really pressing through the palms, feeling the stability in the shoulders. You can walk the palms a little bit closer together, a little wider apart as needed. to feel really, really stable. Like you can hang out here all day with minimal effort. Don't worry, we won't. Return to the breath. And now either step or jump up to the top of the mat, bringing the feet towards the hands as we meet in a Uttanasana forward fold. Catch a wave of inhale to rise up to your halfway lift. Exhale to fold. Let's shift our weight to our heels. Activate the hamstrings to really pull that upper body into position for a Tadasana. This time you can allow the arms to continue the journey to go all the way up to the top, maybe engage in a bit of a back bend, and then slowly, like you're pulling something, you're moving through water, bring those palms towards your chest. Pause here. You can allow the arms to fall to your sides. And just like before, we're going to walk out the feet, finding that neutral position for the ankles. This time we'll shift our weight to our left leg, sending our right knee up in front of us, finding a point for balance. Let's now line up our knees and reach back with our right hand to grab the right ankle or foot. You can grab from either the outer or inner aspect, find whatever works for you. Once again, let's make sure we're really shining our belly button forward, making sure that we wouldn't be spilling anything from our pelvis. If you imagine it's a bowl, we're really kind of tucking it in and being neutral. You can allow that left arm to rise on up, maybe engage in a little bit of a back bend. And from here, let's release the hand without having the foot move, and then step on back into our high Anjaneyasana or crescent lunge. Excellent, get a little bouncy, feel the fluidity and space we've cultivated in the hips and legs. And now let's send our right arm up and over as we come into our Warrior Two or Virabhadrasana 2. You can tell I can't resist sending out the legs, finding a stance that works. You want to make sure you can move back and forth a little bit, that you've got a lot of bounciness and buoyancy in this stance. Reconnect with the breath. Imagine yourself bringing your shoulders a little closer together at the back, like you're trying to hold a pencil or marker between your shoulder blades. This really opens up the front of the chest. Gather energy from your breath, and then let's reach up and over with that right arm to frame the front foot, release the back foot, and then send the left arm up into the air for a twist. Once again, you can walk out that left foot a little bit to give yourself more space, and really imagine yourself leaning against a wall. Return to the breath. Feel stable and balanced between the 3 points in contact with the mat, knowing that you can come to your knee at any time. As we windmill that top left arm down, let's press through the front foot to send the hips back, plant the back foot so that the heel is planted and toes are more or less going towards the front. Pull the heart forward and drape the spine over the front leg. Feel free to experiment with different stances, maybe walking the feet closer together or further apart, finding a spot where you have a gentle sensation of lengthening, but not of tension within that front left hamstring. Imagine the breath smoothing out any areas of tension developing in that leg or elsewhere. Maybe see if you can allow your head to come a little closer to the mat, being guided, of course, by your hamstrings. Excellent. And from here, let's walk our palms towards the long edge of the mat, allowing the toes to follow, and then turning so all of our toes are now pointed towards the right, pausing in this little mini lunge. Let's press through the palms, step that front right foot back, and we're going to pause together in our plank for 5, 4, no, you can come to your knees at any time, 3, 2, One, let's lower with some control. Excellent. Take a well-deserved little break. You can come right on up into your cobra if you would like. And or grab a sip of water before we add on to our sequence. All right, once we're ready, let's tuck underneath our toes, make sure our palms are underneath our shoulders, and either coming through tabletop or plank, push on back into downward facing dog. Pedal out the feet and maybe make your downward dog stance a little bit shorter. From here, we're going to move our right palm a little bit closer to the midline and really get light in that left palm. So we feel really stabilized through that right shoulder. Take that left palm, if you would like, and reach towards your opposite right ankle. Pause here, feeling the stability throughout that right shoulder, knowing that if this doesn't work for you or if it doesn't feel good or stable, you can come to your regular downward dog at any time. Now we can walk the toes up towards the palm. You can place both palms if that's a little bit more stable as we meet at the short edge of the mat in our forward fold Uttanasana. Inhale to our halfway lift, feeling that flush of energy. Exhale to fold. Send the weight back into the heels as we rise on up to our Tadasana mountain pose, allowing the arms to continue the journey all the way up. Engage in a back bend as you shine your heart up. And then pull the palms down in front of the chest, feeling that flush of energy. You can allow the arms to go to the sides or to the hips, maybe shake out the legs a little bit, get nice and loose. And this time, we're going to shift our weight to our left foot. I promise you, this is not a mistake. It's different from the last time we were facing this direction. We're going to line up our knees and grab our right foot with our right hand, reaching on up. Now you can stay in this classic gym class quad stretch. That's perfectly awesome. Or if you want to experiment with Natarajasana or dancer pose, first shine the heart up and back, and then kick into the hand a little bit, imagining a little bit of a C curve from your right foot to your left arm. You can bend through the standing leg, maybe get a little bit of bounciness to make sure we're not developing any extra tension. Reconnect with the breath. Feel the strength that's developing in that left hip. Now we can pause here, or if you want to explore a little bit more, release that back foot, send the arms out to the sides like an airplane, and come into Virabhadrasana 3 warrior pose. Totally okay if you fall out. You can rejoin if and when you're ready. Option to stay here or press through that standing leg. Grab your back foot ever so gently and return to dancer Natarajasana. Only be here for a few more breaths. Option to hang out here or play with the warrior pose by sending out that back leg, sending the heart forward, using your arms for stability. Imagine you're flying. And then finally, let's bend through that left leg, planting the right foot and rising on up into your high Anjaneyasana. From here, we're going to windmill the arms out, turning away from me to come into a warrior 2 position. So you should have your left knee bent, right leg straight, shoulders above hips, looking over those left fingertips. Reconnect with the breath. And when you're ready, let's windmill that right arm up and over and come immediately into your twist pose. This should feel really good. You should get a nice release throughout that left hip. You're very welcome to hang out here, or if you want to explore a little bit further, maybe walk your foot in a tiny bit so that your shoulder is right over top of your hand. And start heel toeing or walking that left leg towards the middle of the mat as you come out onto the outer aspect of your right foot. Option to pause here in supported side plank, or if you're feeling really strong throughout the right side of the body, you can place your legs on top of one another in a side plank. If this is still feeling really stable for you and you want a little bit further, maybe try raising up that top leg. Wherever you're at, trust that your choice is the right one. We'll be here for 3, 2, 1. And then all of us, let's replace our left leg in front to get some support. Let's turn to frame that front foot and then walk the palms towards the long edge of the mat, continuing to the opposite short edge of the mat, pausing in a little lunge to frame now that front right foot. Press through the palms, step back into plank pose. We'll be here for 3, 2, and 1. Bend through the elbows to land yourself on the mat. Untuck the toes, catch an inhale up into cobra, and exhale back onto your mat. We can take a minute to reconnect with our bodies and our breath, maybe massaging your forehead against the mat. When you're feeling ready, same thing next side. Tuck underneath the toes, make sure the palms are under the shoulders, and press on up into your downward facing dog. Let's pedal out the feet. And this time you might want to walk your left palm a little closer to the midline. It doesn't need to, you can experiment with what feels more stable. Maybe walk your downward dog in a little bit so it's a bit of a shorter stance, right without too far. You can experiment. And once you feel really stable through that left arm, take your right arm and bring it on over to the left ankle. This is totally optional. You'll get all the same benefits from your regular downward facing dog. Reconnect with the breath, draw some stability from the left shoulder. And when you're ready, option to replace your palm, or you can experiment with keeping the one palm down and walking the feet towards that left palm. We'll release into an Uttanasana forward fold. Inhale to catch a wave. Exhale to fold. Send the weight back as we inhale to rise on up into our Tadasana, taking our sweet, sweet time. And allowing the arms to reach up and overhead. Enjoy a back bend before we pull the palms down towards the chest, like we're moving through jello or water, something really thick. Pause here. You can take a minute to allow your thumbs to rest against the breastbone, maybe feel your heartbeat. Allow the arms to fall out to the sides. They can hang out there, maybe come to your hips. And let's pedal out or walk out the feet a little bit as we shift the weight, this time to our right leg, sending our left knee behind us and grabbing it with our left palm. Pausing here, you can find a drishti, a point on the ground in front of you for focus and balance. We can do this exact same pose that we did before, the gym class quad stretch, I'm going to call it. Or if you'd like to explore Natarajasana, dancer pose, first shine the heart up and over, and then kick out into the foot, imagining that C curve all the way from your right arm to your left foot. Reconnect with the breath, get a little bouncy in that standing leg. You can put a little bend in the knee to draw some stability. Whenever we lock out our joints, it's really, really ineffective for our balance. Option to hang out here or release the foot, send it back, arms to the side as we come into a modified Virabhadrasana 3 or Warrior 3 pose. Pause here, feeling the stability from our right hip that's allowing us to fly right now. Option to hang out or make it back to your dancer pose. You know that right leg's probably talking. Won't be here for too much longer. Let's send out that back leg into Warrior 3 if you would like, And wherever you're at, bend through that front leg, land the back toes, scoop the air up and over for a brief Anjaneyasana. And then send the arms out facing the opposite long edge of the mat, likely away from the screen, as we come into Warrior Two or Virabhadrasana 2. So we've got our bent right leg, looking past the right fingertips and reconnecting with the breath. Imagine pulling the mat apart with your feet as you reach up and over with the left arm to frame the front foot. Join us in the twist. Option to hang out here. Again, it should feel really good to get a release now in that right hip. Or if you'd like to explore something a little different, you can make sure your stance is relatively short, so your shoulders right above your palm. Walk that front right leg out to the middle as you come to the outer aspect of your left leg. Pause here. This is great for strengthening the core and obliques. If this is not doing much for you, option to stack the legs, really making sure we're pushing up, almost creating a bit of a rainbow arch with our body. If you'd like to explore something different, you can also raise that top leg. Wherever you're at, we'll pause here for 3, 2, 1. And now let's all place down that front right foot. Walk it over. Whew. And then let's continue walking the palms along the long edge of the mat, framing this time the left foot as we plant the palms, step back into maybe not our last plank, but one of our last planks. Pausing here for 3, 2, 1. Let's lower down to the mat. Whew. Take a minute here, grab your water, reconnect with the breath, and enjoy some well-deserved rest. Now we have one other quick little beat. We're going to kind of do a speed run from some of those last poses before we just come to our cool down in Shavasana. If you want to start the cool down now, that is totally cool. So wherever you're at, if you'd like to join for this next little speed run, we'll call it, although it'll be a very conscious and connected speed run. Tuck underneath the toes, palms underneath the shoulders, as we press on up into our downward facing dog. You can head out the feet, get a nice short stance. Last option, to press through the right arm, get light in the left arm, and reach over towards the right ankle. If you feel really stable here, you can practice with lifting that left leg, kind of squeezing it over top of the right, pausing in a two-legged dog, almost two-dimensional pose. Totally okay if you fall out, you're pretty close to the ground. Wherever you're at, we can release that, step or hop up to the top of the mat in our forward fold. Inhale to halfway lift, exhale to fold. Inhale to rise on up to Tadasana, allowing the palms to come up overhead, and then down to the chest. Let's shift the weight to our left leg, taking our right ankle with our right hand. Come on into our Natarajasana. This is one of our options on this leg to come into Virabhadrasana 3. And now let's step back, landing in high Anjaneyasana. Turn all 10 toes towards the long edge of the mat, and then continue that journey. So we're in Anjaneyasana on the other side. From here, get bouncy and step on up into your Tadasana. Take a deep breath to send the arms up overhead, enjoy a little back bend, pull down towards the chest. Let's shift the weight over to our right leg. Option to grab the left ankle with the left hand. Send ourselves into dancer's pose, Natarajasana. Come into a Virabhadrasana 3, knowing that we can skip this part. I have a hard time balancing facing this side because I'm so close to a blank wall. There's nothing to focus on. Bend into the front knee, rising on up into our high crescent Anjaneyasana. And then let's paint the wall in front of us with our palms, frame the front foot, send it back into plank, and right away send it into downward facing dog. Pedaling out the feet. You probably know where we're going with this. Make a bit of a shorter stance. Option to press through that left shoulder. Reach towards the left ankle with the right arm. Hang out here. Or if you want to experiment with your two-legged dog, let's float that right foot. Reconnect with your breath. Draw some stability from the core. And let's now all meet in a regular downward dog. We'll be here for 3, 2, 1. Let's allow our knees to come to the mat. There will be nothing more activating during this practice. It will now all be soothing and restorative. Option to keep your knees together, arms out to the side in a classic Balasana child's pose, or spread the knees apart, feet together, reach forward with the arms for the Tasana devotional pose. You can experiment with the two, reconnect with the breath. If your forehead is towards the mat, feel free to rock back and forth to massage out any furrows that have developed in the brows in the course of this practice. Start to rise on up. If you're in devotional, you can use your palms, or if you're in Balasana, you can simply lean back. From here, we'll make sure our knees are facing forward. This doesn't feel great for everyone's knees and ankles, so please feel free to give yourselves a break if it doesn't work. But if it's feeling good so far, you can experiment with placing your palms kind of right underneath your shoulders, facing towards your knees. From here, we can press through the knees to open on up into a bit of a reverse table. I like to imagine myself really lengthening through the front of the hip flexors, through the front of the chest. To me, this is a great counteraction of all the time we spend hunched over our desks. Let's lower the hips to the heels. And now let's simply sit our hips towards the side of our heels, send our legs on out in front of us. Feel free to give the legs a little bit of a wiggle, bend through the knees, reach on up and drape the body over the legs one last time, doing some opening through the hamstrings. If the sensation's not enough for you, you can work towards straightening through the legs a little bit more, allowing the head to come a little closer to the knees in this Paschimottanasana forward fold. Press through the legs, send the body on up. I'm going to make sure I've got some more space behind me as I walk my hips towards the middle of the mat, send out the legs, and round the spine, coming into a supine pose and preparing for Shavasana. If there's any other poses your body is craving, feel free to do them now. Maybe you want to do a windshield wiper, from the knees into the chest. Maybe you'd like to simply pause in stillness for Shavasana. Reconnect with the breath and allow the arms and legs to flop out to the sides. We'll be here for a short while, and I promise I'll cue you out. Now we're a little short on time today, so we don't have time for a huge Shavasana, but if you're able, feel free to hang out here for as long as you want and as long as you need.
You've got to get on going. Let's inhale the arms up overhead, stretching through the arms and legs, and exhale to let it all go like a floppy noodle on the floor. Let's drag the left heel back, press through the left foot as we roll onto our right side and press one up through the palms, making our way into seated position, just like we were at the start of practice.
Thank you so much for practicing with me today. I hope you enjoyed this very energizing practice. As always, feedback and questions are welcome.